educate myself about something scientific or about religion, you know. Most of those books that were written that are the religious texts, you know, they were written so long ago, and people didn't have the information that was available now. You know, most educated people today, most very educated people today, admit that they do not believe in God. Okay, and the bottom line behind religion or God is just wanting to belong to a group or a clique, wanting to identify with this group. You know, so that's some of the roots of it. But the superstition, look, God, some people may have claimed to have seen God, until a God is, well, yeah, what I just said about wanting to belong to a group and believing in religion, I think it's a very relevant fact that one of our hardworking agents here at the Captain Atheist headquarters has brought up, is that it's unfortunately also true with politics and politicians. And we see this on a national platform here now. Like, do these people really believe in the things that they're saying, or are they just mouthing words that we'd all like to hear and have no ethics at their core? I mean, like I said, we're going to get deep into that in the weeks to come, and I think that as holds with religion, does hold true with politics. Very good point. It's obvious that when we were talking about Mr. Romney earlier, and how he's saying one thing, but the facts and record of his life speak something else. You know, but people tend to just hear a sound bite, or you know, see a show with a bunch of bright lights and balloons and things like that, and just believe that what's being said is what this person really thinks. You know, I don't think that they do think the things that they're saying. I think that they're laughing at us, and so we're gonna definitely take a lot of time to refute specific beliefs in certain religions, things like that. I mean, I'm an equal opportunity non-believer. I do not believe in any religion or any God. Some of you may know my secret identity, my previous incarnation here in this century before I became Captain Atheist in the 25th century, but this is going to hold true even to my heritage with native beliefs. So I'm going to challenge people's perceptions of that religion and that belief. It's kind of crazy, and I can tell you part of what goes on in Captain Atheist's mind and the mind of his band of ideological rebels here is that, you know, it's hard to let's say communicate any deep belief when we live in a world right now where if you criticize certain religions or beliefs, you're under threat of physical violence. I mean, look at everything that's occurred. You know, someone, you know, Salman Rushdie. We could talk about that for a minute if I'd like to. You know, everybody might have heard of the book called The Satanic Verses. The book was released in 1989. It's Mr. Rushdie's fourth novel. A novel. It is a work of fiction. A novel, just like anything else, is a work of fiction. So, for those of you who are not aware of what caused the controversy or anything, is that basically there was someone based on Muhammad with the name changed in the Satanic Verses, and it went on a legend that existed in Islamic culture that at one time, in the time when Islam was being formed, that Muhammad had indeed adapted this belief in these three goddesses that came from Mecca in prehistory, and then later reversed and removed those verses from the Quran, claiming that they had been put in there because the devil had tempted him. So this was a source of part of what was going on in this fictional story that Mr. Rushdie wrote. And then what happened from there? Many believers in Islam took great offense to the book, never differentiating that he wasn't writing a history book. He was writing a book that was a fictional story. Within, I don't know how long of that time it was, that the reigning spiritual leader of Iran at that time, one of the Ayatollah Khomeinis, which I apologize that I do not know the first name right at this moment off the top of my head, but whichever Khomeini that was, issued a fatwa against Salman Rushdie, which of course this means ordering all good Muslims that this man needs to die for what he did. This led to Mr. Rushdie going into 20 years of living underground under an assumed name that we all know now as Anton, thanks to his new book. But this was the cause. In 1989, Great Britain, the United Kingdom, broke off diplomatic relations with Iran because of the fatwa against an author who wrote a novel. So this extremism, you can see, a guy writes a fictional story and writes something in this fictional story that some people that are radicals take offense to with no logic, because once again, he didn't say this was the new Quran, this is the new belief, hey, I uncovered a truth about your prophet. He wrote a fictional story. Well, within a year of that, you have the United Kingdom breaking off diplomatic ties with a country because of the threats to his life. And 20 years living underground, many attempts on his life, the most famous one being year escapes me right now, but of course at one point, you had that great explosion that leveled 2 floors of a hotel in East London, and that was because the man that did it, it was a malfunction. He was making a bomb to go kill Salman Rushdie, and so innocent people in that hotel died. But it was all in the guise. Now, just recently, Iran in the last several years had tried to. They were trying to get back to having diplomatic communications with Great Britain, and they said, okay, look, we will not sanction this fatwa as a country, but we will not put it down either. And basically there's another thing that said that no one can remove this fatwa because only the person that creates it can remove it, and of course the Khomeini that did this is long since dead. So in other words, Salman Rushdie's life must end, is permanent. So he has recently released a new book that tells of his life under an assumed name. But another interesting thing, and I don't even know what to make about it, that happened in the last week, was actually September 18th. Salman Rushdie came out and issued a statement publicly that basically condemned the guy that made this film that's got everybody up in arms. The one about, the guy that in California here made, the title is escaping me right now, and actually the title would have escaped everybody if people, the radical Muslims that drew attention to this movie made the movie basically what it is. The movie, of course, that I'm talking about is The Innocence of Muslims. This video recently released that has caused all this violence and everything like that. Well, if certain radical Muslims wouldn't have latched on to that Innocence of Muslims video, chances are 99% of the people in the world would have never heard of it. I mean, this was not a Hollywood-produced product. It's not going to be marketed. And most likely 90% of the Muslim world has not seen it, let alone to judge to it. But anyway, what I'm saying is, yes, that 90% of the Muslim world had not seen the movie, and to be in a situation where you're going to let your leaders or most radical extremists lead you into a certain behavior without even judging the materials at hand. Like I said with Mr. Rushdie's book, it's a novel. It's a work of fiction. It's like reacting to something in a Tarzan book or a Conan book or a Dracula. Oh wow, a person from Transylvania was a vampire. Let's go put stakes through all their hearts so that none of them come and bite us. So Salman Rushdie making this statement that he felt it was very strange after all this 20 years of them trying to kill him over his book. He first made the statement that he will not be issuing a paperback version of Satanic Verses, which is basically showing that radical religious people have affected the world in a way that now an author can't put out a book. Thought is being suppressed and repressed by fear of violence and intimidation. So he went on in this statement to say that the film he felt was made with the specific intent to piss Muslims off, and that there was an overblown rage, against it is not debatable, but he's basically saying that was, in his perception, the intent of that film was to cause this animosity and hatred. So let's move on off into something. Look, another thing that I think needed to be mentioned when we were talking about the Catholic Church earlier. First was the issue of their greed, their wealth that's not being spread, the control that they exert. They've influenced and run governments. I mean, let's face it, many times in the history of humanity, the Vatican has actually been more powerful than the governments of any individual nation. But what about this sexual molestation issue? I mean, these people claim to be the servants of God, yet there's been hundreds and hundreds and let's say thousands of years of institutionalized sexual molestation going on in the church. The church has always known it. It's part and parcel of it. But once again, these are God's servants. Well, most rational people, even you that say you believe in a God or a religion, how do you deal with that and believe in this? Because it's totally illogical to think that these people are serving a creator with all these commandments and rules of behavior, and we're all going to be punished for what we do, but yet at the core of who's running it, and this goes not just to the Catholic Church, but in many cases to politics as well, and to any religion. You look at almost every religion, especially when you get into smaller sects, cults, this child molestation, everything turns up always. It always turns up, okay? But another thing I think that should be stated here is that not all believers of any religion, whether it's Islam or Christianity, not all are the extremists. Not all take it to the extreme. But the dichotomy there for me is that whether you take it to the extreme or whether you act in that way or not, in my own personal belief and what I've been able to learn about religion by looking at the religious texts, the Quran, the Talmud, the Bible, and these things, is that whether you follow it to its most radical extreme or not, the truth of the matter is, at its core, in its truth, in what it's dictating to do, is violence, control, mind control, suppression of women, racism, their handbooks on how to go out and commit murder, judge other people. All those major religious texts judge anyone outside that religion to be less than human. And that's whether it's Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. All of them within their texts say that people outside their belief are not human. And so I realized that, say, with Islam, that there, or Christianity, or Judaism, there's people that follow it to an extreme, and they're looked at by me as radicals, of course, maybe by you, and then there are, of course, ones that just, okay, well, we don't really do this or that, but we just like the core idea, we just like the, thou shalt nots, and the do this and do right, and the good principles of it. Well, it's kind of like being friends with Hannibal Lecter and saying, oh, look, I don't really pay attention to the part that he's a cannibal. What I know is he's an excellent chef and he has very good taste in wine. So what if he likes to eat somebody's brains? He makes the best fava beans that I've ever had. So that is what I say. Why do you need? Well, not why. That's a rhetorical question. You don't. No one needs a religious text or a head of a church or a religious organization to teach morality. All these things, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, all these things, they just boil down to one thing, like it's been said over and over by people like Bill Maher and George Carlin, and Jim Jeffries, which, George Carlin and Bill Maher might say, hey, there should be one rule, don't be an asshole. Jim Jeffries says, simply do not be a cunt. And it's the truth, man. Now let's talk about some other radical people, which is extremes in all religions. The Westboro Church, the Westboro Baptist Church. I'm looking for a quote from Reverend Fred Phelps so I can say it specifically. See, we had all this stuff up on audio, people, and everything. Hold on.